The following video is a conversation that I hosted with Dr. Marc Gafni on the subject of wholemates. Now, I first discovered this concept back in 2023 when I was invited to Vermont at the board meeting for the Center of World Philosophy and Religion. This is the upcoming book for Dr. Marc Gafni, Wholemates, The Future of Relationships, which talks about these epochs of time where we go from rolemates to soulmates and how and why the soulmate model doesn't actually work and the evolution that is required to make this step into the future of relationships, which is wholemates. As always, with the linguistic master that Dr. Gafni is, and the way in which he charismatically presents, this is a wonderful live call that I want to invite you in to watch to really understand the essence and the idea of wholemates. There'll also be a link for you to be able to download the first 5 chapters of the upcoming book before it's released. And lastly, this is going to be the topic of the upcoming mystery school in Holland in a month's time with Dr. Gafni and also special guest Aubrey Marcus. So if you are interested in attending that, there will also be a link below to be able to check out more about the mystery school. And before we dive in, I will just say that having been to the last mystery school, it was really not just mind-blowing, it was life-changing with the transmission and the depth of the teachings, and to actually be in the environment, to have the propositional but also the non-propositional experience. We have different types of knowing. We have the conceptual knowing, and there are the teachings, but also as Dr. Gafni transmits them, you can sense and feel that it's not just an intellectual knowing, but it's coming from somewhere deeper. There's an essence that transmits through, which acts as a portal and an invitation to step into that knowing and maybe even a remembering of something that exists deep within that we may have become disconnected from. Furthermore, beyond the actual transmission that takes place, there are then embodied practices that we go through throughout these 5 days. So it's a 5-day intensive, and it really is an invitation to step into what a world could be as an enlightened society, which is a phrase that Krista Josepha said when I did a podcast with her before the last mystery school. And upon attending in 2023, I really understood the essence of that sentence. So before we head in, I hope you really enjoy this conversation with Dr. Gafni on wholemates. Please use the link below to download the first 5 chapters of the book. And also, if you would like to attend the mystery school, I'll be there, as well as Aubrey Marcus and Dr. Gafni, Dr. Christina Kincaid, and so many other wonderful people. You can use the link below to check it out and to be able to join. All right, so much love, and enjoy the recording of the following live call. Let me introduce, first of all, I think most people here are familiar with Dr. Gafni. If not, he is a visionary thinker, a social activist, a passionate philosopher, author of over 25 books, and some of the most well-known being Your Unique Self, A Return to Eros, Radical Kabbalah. He is a rabbi with a lineage through the Kabbalistic traditions, a doctorate in philosophy from Oxford University, and maybe most impressively, rumor has it, can bench press 190 pounds. With all that being said, on a personal level, I've had the deep pleasure and honor to get to know Dr. Gafni over the last couple of years. And, I first started listening to Wayne Dyer and kind of getting into spiritual and philosophical teachings 24 years ago. And I can say that there isn't any one individual person that's had more impact on me in my breadth and depth of understanding than Dr. Gafni has. So he has not only influenced my mind and my understanding, but also my heart, and his character is truly educational. So Without further ado, thank you so much, and welcome, Dr. Gafni.
Thank you, Sabri. It's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you, my young friend. Right, and it's great to be here with everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about like agricultural fertilizer, right, in northern Mongolia in
Exactly.
the 13th century, which is very, very important to geopolitical currents. So let's get into that. Where do we want to start? I mean, there were a number of like 4 kinds of fertilizer that they were actually used, and each one had a different. So I'm going to try and talk about the 6 implications of each of those 4 kinds. All right, we'll talk about something else. All right, all right, okay, we'll talk about something else. I got it, not a problem. It's a tough crowd, Krista. Sabri, where'd you find these people? Cha.
Off the street. I had to go and gather them up.
I believe me, I get it. The local bars there, kind of in London. Right? It's great to be here, everyone. Let's try and understand where we are in this moment in the world, and just talk to you for just a few minutes. And thank you for your time. I completely appreciate it. Sabri is as you all know, a wonderful, wonderful young man. Right, and he bench presses much higher than 190. So he was being very charitable, and how that is. And I've had the privilege of having Sabri with me in our study circles, and we're just beginning kind of a deep study relationship. We've lost the art. I was saying to my dear friend who's also an initiate in this path that I'm trying to invoke, Aubrey. The capacity to actually study, right, is a very big deal. Right, we're kind of afraid to do that. My teacher when I was 19 or 20, I would actually follow him around. He was the leading figure at Harvard when he was 18, and Cambridge Neoplatonism, and was the greatest Aramaic mystic kind of scholar of his generation. And I would follow him around to just try and absorb and understand, right? And I look forward to meeting Sabri students, right, in the fullness of the years, right, kind of grandchildren, if you will, right? But we have to actually reclaim a relationship, and it's a good place to start. We have to reclaim a relationship to teacher, which is a non-guru relationship, but it's a non-San Francisco, we're all kind of hanging out relationship. It's neither of those. We have to emphatically reject the guru, right? You have to reject the guru. The guru has no place, right, in a world of democratized human autonomy. But we all have to be our own gurus. That's critical, right? In other words, we're all authors of our own story. And we all, from that self-authorship, have to kind of place ourselves, right, in the depth of our own authority. Authorship and authority are deeply related. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? So, any claims of guruhood should be suspect, and you should walk out, before it even gets started. That's a good place to start anything. Okay. At the same time, we've done something else, though. We've actually destroyed the transmission of wisdom between generations. Does everyone get that? TikTok, right? The social media structure, the digital landscapes, the broken information ecology, right? The debunking of wisdoms, right? The undermining of the field of value. We actually don't have literally a mechanism that transmits wisdom between the generations. Does everyone get the implication of what I just said? That has never been true in human history. We have disinhibited, right, the basic process of the transmission of wisdom. That's never happened in human history before, ever. Right? We always had chains of transmission. And essentially what's happened is the digital world has disintermediated those chains. And we actually don't believe that there's a field of value, that value is real, that there are any sort of hierarchies of wisdom at all. We can't discern between competing wisdom claims. And so it all becomes one big, everyone's just telling their story and figure out which one speaks to you best. But there actually is no center that can hold, right? And it's what the poet was writing about, right? The worst, are filled with passion and intensity. The best lack all conviction, right? The best lack all conviction. The worst are filled with passion and intensity. And we can't We can't quite get underneath the marketing to actually find the essence, and we don't know quite how to discern. Is everyone familiar with what I'm talking about? Is this just show of hands? Who knows what I'm talking about? Is this familiar at all? It's like, that's like a big, it's not easy to move beyond my immediate context. We're very in our immediate context. We're very myopic. What's happening to me in my life right now at this time? That's exactly what I don't want to talk about. And yet everything we say is going to have everything to do with that at the same time. Right? And as I want to be able to feel the whole, where are we in this moment in time? That's the beginning of enlightenment. As I feel beyond the predicament of my myopic narcissistic predicament. Right? I can feel the whole. Does that make sense? I can feel like, where am I? What is this unique moment in time in which we are in a time between worlds? We're in a time between stories. Does that make sense, everyone? You get that notion of in between? We're in between. It's a time between worlds. It's a time between stories. And we need to be the heroes of this age. And what's a hero? Anybody, what's a hero? My son is here. My 14-year-old son is with me. He gave me an hour off today, but we spend, every X amount of time, we take off an entire 24 hours. My son and I, 24 to 36, but somewhere, and then we sleep not a lot. We're in that 24, and we watch hero movies and shows together. That's literally what we do. So we're in the middle now. We are just between us. We're in the 7th season of Flash. Now that's a little dizzying to anybody. Okay, it's like, are you serious? The 7th season of Flash? Like, oh my God! And one of the gentlemen who does Holy Foliage with me, the lovely guy named Makad, he did another one of the Marvel movies. So we watched like 8 seasons of Supergirl. That's a lot of Supergirl. I'm just saying. That's a lot of Supergirl. Okay, now why do I watch with my son Marvel hero epics? Because the dialogue in all of them is about the field of value. Heroes have a relationship to value. Isn't that interesting? And it's the nature of a hero is that a hero has a relationship to the whole, right? Who remembers? Let's date ourselves. Let's go back to 2019, right? Or is it 18 or 19? Okay, show of hands. Who saw the Avengers? Any Avengers people here? Come on, Avengers. You've heard of it, And if you don't, just lie, because otherwise you'll feel out of it. So just lie. No one's going to know. Okay. So what happens at the end of the second Avengers? Right. Remember, Doctor Strange says to Tony Stark, "There's only one scenario in which this is going to work out okay." Remember, there's right. Thanos has got this. Thanos has got this. We don't know what to do with Thanos. There's only one scenario. It's going to work out okay. And in that scenario, Tony Stark gives up his life. Remember that? It's like, right? Gwyneth Paltrow's not that happy. She's his wife, but Gwyneth, works it out. She goes and reads Goop on the side. It's fine, right? But so right here we are, right? So it's like, right? So Tony Stark, right? He's the hero. He has a relationship to the whole. That's what a hero means, right? A hero has, play with me. Anyone, any Latin scholars here? Any Latin scholars in the house? I know Sabri has a particular attraction, I know, to Latin scholars. So I know there might be some kind of Latin things going on here. Let's do a little Latin. Okay, so we'll do Latin roots. Any Latin root people? So a hero has what? Anybody? Valor. Valor. The hero has valor, right? What else does the hero have? Right? Oasis down there. Is that not Oasis? How do you pronounce your name? Not Oasis. Quasis. Quace. Quace, is that right? Am I vaguely close? Quace? Yeah, maybe. It's a great first name.
I think it's Case. Case.
It was a Case just with a Q. Okay, I'm changing my name anyways. That's a fantastic first name. I'm got Mark. That's all I got. Case, that is a first name that is worthy of a first name. So Case, right? So a hero has, you with me? He's got valor. Hero has valor. Okay. And then Luciana, a hero has Adam, right? A hero has valiance. A hero's valiant. You see the vowels? Valor, valiant. What else? A hero has, it's a Latin word, valeri. He's strong and stands in good courage, right? And a hero knows that their life is valid, has intrinsic validity, right? And a hero has also a unique, let's go back to subatomic particles, valence, right? And a hero is filled with what? With Valentia or Valentius, which is Happy Valentine's Day, Valentine, right? Love. So a hero is filled with courage, filled with power, filled with love, has an experience of the essential validity of their life. They feel welcome in the universe because the hero is related to the whole. That's what a hero means. A hero can feel the whole. So a hero is an early adopter of what I would call the new human and the new humanity. Okay? Dominique, that's a pretty good background you got going on there. Okay? Welcome to Earth, Earth being. Okay? It's good to see you, man. Okay? Right? Does everyone get that? Right? So a hero's got this relationship to the whole. Right? So the hero is able to break the myopic nature of my temporal, right, dissociation from the whole. I'm dissociated. Most of us are dissociated. So if something is going on, like we're talking about the Ukraine today. Everyone's tracking the Ukraine. How many people here even know the fucking topography of the Ukraine? Like what happened in 2000? Belarus, where's that in relationship to Kiev? We have no idea. We just read about it every day. We can't even find our way around it. We have no idea. It's like, it's not even far away in Europe. It's not, Ukraine is not even far away. But it's like it's dissociated from our reality. So we're geographically dissociated and we're temporally dissociated. We can't actually find the experience of the past and we can't find the experience of the future. We're dissociated in time. We're myopically, right? We're in this little present moment and we can't quite recover the memories of the past and we can't quite recover the memories of the future. And instead, we myopically focus like on the most narrow part of our future success. So our future is our future success. That's actually what the future really means for us as a felt experience. And our past is our trauma memories that we're going to go and try and collect, which is a great idea. Trauma work, it's a great idea, but that's my past. That's the whole story. I'm defined by my traumatic moments. So we realize we're dissociated from past and future. So we go to recover the traumas of the past and the potential surface successes of the future. And then we wonder why we're depressed. Right? We're like, this is not feeling so good. Right? It's like, that's what I mean. We're at a time between worlds. We're at a time between stories. Okay, so we have to locate ourselves in this time as heroes. There's a democratization of the hero that needs to begin to take place. We have to begin to become heroes of our own lives. I mean, that's what Charles Dickens wrote and put in David Copperfield's voice, right? What does it mean to be the hero of my own life? Meaning, what does it mean to be madly filled with love, madly in love with myself, madly in love with reality, right? Animated by Eros, feeling the whole, acting uniquely in the context of my life for the sake of the whole, with a sense of being madly and fully alive. Now, stay close with me. I'm not saying to leave your day job, but I'm saying to get a phone booth. So Clark Kent has a day job. Remember the Daily Planet? Who remembers Clark Kent, Superman, the Daily Planet? He's got a day job. I'm not saying quit your day job. I'm saying get a fucking phone booth. And phone booth is the place that you change into Superman. Did you get the difference? It's very precise. It's not that, quit your day job, right? Forget about everything. You're not going to pay the rent. Right now. Just go be, that doesn't make any sense. No, Clark Kent always works at the Daily Planet, right? Be grounded, be part of reality, have a day job, and take Lois Lane to dinner if you want to. Okay, we got that. But here's the deal. Lois Lane and Clark Kent have phone booths, right? There's got to be a place where I step into that phone booth and I actually transform into who I actually truly am. And who am I? I'm a hero. Not because I'm being clever. I'm not saying something clever. It's not a clever thing to say. It's actually my true nature. My true nature. I'm going to, I don't know how many of the men or women here, teasing aside, are into kind of like, athletics is one of the ways we express our true nature. Creativity is another way. Poetry is a third way. Relationships another way. Right. But I'm just going to use, I apologize for this to the women. I'm going to use a kind of male metaphor for a second. And then I apologize to the women who are going to tell me it's really a female metaphor. And I'm kind of being chauvinistic by saying it's a male metaphor. So Apologize to everyone. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's go back to that movie from God knows when Sylvester Stallone, right, is Rocky and Rocky 1. And I'm not talking about Rocky 17. I'm talking about Rocky 1. So I'm going to do a little show of hands here. Does anyone remember seeing the rerun? I know none of us were born then, but remember seeing the rerun of Rocky 1? Like the first Rocky? Show of hands. Anybody? Anybody? Rocky 1. You got to see it tonight. It's so good. Rocky 1 is like fantastic. Okay. But when you walk out of a Rocky movie, we're not going to post, we're not posting this online, right? This is only for an inner group. Is that right? Only for an inner group? Yes, only inner group, right?
We can
No,
edit. We can
we'll
edit.
edit. Okay, we'll edit this next thing. So I was just in Puerto Rico and I was hanging out with the guy who does Holy of Holies. We'll edit this part. I'm going to be attractive and alluring and this way and creatively or kind of emotionally or aesthetically or psychologically. So here's the booby prize, right? There's no field of value, not really accomplishing much. It's a rivalrous conflict, win-lose metric success world. But I got a booby prize. You can fall in love. You can have a love story. Now, here's the bad news. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. It does not work. When love displaces the field of value, love collapses. We've done is we've killed all the gods except for Aphrodite. Aphrodite is the goddess of love. And we think we can worship at her altar. Doesn't work. Aphrodite only lives in the field of the gods. Does that make sense? In the field of the gods and goddesses, Aphrodite reigns. But if I dissociate love from what it is, the field of Eros, the field of value, love collapses. So I'm going to tell you something like crazy wild. No one's going to like this. So you can hang up at any time and blame Sabri. Okay, so any problems? Sabri's fault. Okay, we got that. Let's all get this clear. Whose fault it is? Everyone together? Sabri. Great. We got this covered. Okay, no, it's not true. We love Sabri. Okay, but track this with me. It's so crazy beautiful. The whole notion of like I have a soulmate is a crock of shit. It doesn't work. Soulmates don't work. Right? And here's the story. We think, wow, I'm looking deeply in someone's eyes. This is so good. And a couple of years have gone by and it's so boring. But do not say that out loud or you will get slaughtered. Because there's a certain moment where looking deeply in someone's eyes, by the way, the same person, for quite a long time, gets profoundly unfulfilling. So what do? So we change the face. That doesn't work. That's even worse. And then you just get like lost in next face, next face, next face, next body, next ass, next pair of breasts. Like we're like bored out of our minds. Right? There's no tender, there's just Tinder. I'm just looking deeply in your eyes. It's boring as all fuck hell. But no one will tell you that. It's just so boring. Right? There's a certain point in which personal fulfillment is just not fulfilling. But we've created soulmate as the booby prize for a culture which has killed all the gods. So we kill all the gods except for Aphrodite, but then we have no idea how to worship at her altar. So now, stay with me for a second. What does work? What works is if we're looking at a shared horizon together. All right, we're looking at a shared horizon together. Then we turn and look at each other. Does everyone get that? You see the difference? Those are completely different. Completely different. I have a friend. We're going to edit this part out also. Okay. So let's do a little matrix action here. Okay. It's like you guys, we were all too young to see it, but we probably have some vague memory that a movie like that was made. So you remember the two key figures are Neo and Trinity, right? Everyone got Neo and Trinity with me? Neo and Trinity. We good on that? Neo, Trinity. Okay, good. So Neo and Trinity meet. Okay. When they meet, remember the dialogue is a fantastic dialogue. First off, he says, "You're Trinity, the hacker. I thought you were a man." And she says, most people do, kind of like engineer must be a man. So there's this kind of like great dialogue. Trinity, of course, is this very beautiful figure. She's kind of sleek, tight black leather, wildly masculine and wildly feminine at the same time. You catch that? right? She's both. She's both. She's this very powerful kind of masculine figure and this very erotic feminine figure. And she's this kind of unique gender heros gamos between masculine and feminine, right? So let's bracket that. That's a different conversation. So they get together, and Trinity says to Neo, the reason we met, anyone remember? Right? Because we're asking the same question, right? We're on the same quest. That's the scene, right? Matrix, first one. We're asking the same question. Like, huh. Right, now stay with me, okay? We're going to do a little cultural cinematography. Anyone do a little cinematography? We'll look at texts of culture. A movie is a text of culture. Does that make sense? It doesn't matter whether you saw it or didn't see it. Go see it. And it's not about which movie's popular, right? We're not having the baby girl conversation. Different conversation. Baby girl. Not having that now. Okay. Interesting. Not now. Okay. But no, let's not talk about it. Okay. So let's go back. Let's go back to the first major soulmate movie that brings soulmate into culture. Okay. And Sabri is very, very generous. He's offered a $10,000 right prize for anyone who gets the right name of this movie that brought, but you have 5 seconds and it's over. Sorry. Okay. So Love Story, 1970. 1970 Love Story. Now, I know we weren't around to see it, but you may have seen the rerun. And if you haven't, rent it. Okay. Right. And you can't rent movies anymore, but however you get movies today, there's some way you get movies. So do that, whatever they do. Okay. Right. Amazon Prime. Oh, and get the no commercial thing. It's like another $2.99 a month. Okay. So Love Story. It's 1970. It's Ryan O'Neal and Ali MacGraw. And the entire movie is about the move out of the old relationship world, which was role mates. And role mates means we fulfill our roles. That was the hunter-gatherer thing from time immemorial. I hunt, we fuck, kids, you nurture the kids, it works. That's the old relationship deal. That old relationship deal, it got broken a few times. There was some Amazon stuff going on. There was some courtly love. There were different moments where that changed. But basically, that deal held till the mid fucking 20th century. Is that insane? It's not that there weren't love stories. There were love stories, but those were the exception. Remember, Romeo and Juliet didn't have a good ending. No happy ending there. It did not go well, that Montague Capulet thing, right? Right? It's like West Side Story was trying to work with that, when they redid it. But basically, the role mate, and role mate means you have a good marriage if both people stay and fulfill their roles. Does that make sense, everyone? That's a role mate. Does that make sense? Anybody, everyone? Okay. So I have a buddy, a great guy who's on the board of our think tank where Sabri's involved, named John Gray. John wrote a book on Venus and Mars, which you guys may have heard of, men Mars, women Venus, right? Sold 50 million copies, big book. So he wrote that in 2000 and he wrote that in like 1994, sorry. 1995, this is true, please check this. 1995, he published a second book. It's actually a much better book on kind of Venus and Mars and relationships, much better than the first book, although it didn't sell nearly as much. It wasn't as populist. And he starts the book with a story about his dad. And I wouldn't tell you the story if he didn't tell it. He basically tells a story about his dad, who's kind of fucking around all over America, right? Completely lying to his mother. And he tells about how his mother says his dad was such a great family man, such a great husband. So you read it from our sensibility and you're like, oh my God, did she not know she was being abused, right? We're like, oh. And we're right about that, by the way. That we're not wrong about that, obviously. But what was she saying? She was saying he stayed with the family. He fulfilled his contractual role. Does everyone get that? He didn't leave. He stayed. He showed up, right? He did the man thing in the mid 50s or late Fred. He paid the bills. And John said, like, wow, that was the old relationship deal. And John was part of, and I have another dear close friend, Harville Hendricks, wrote a book called Getting the Love You Want. So John, Harville, another guy named Gary Chapman, who wrote something called The 5 Love Languages. These are the books of the 90s that are championing this new relationship moment, which hits culture in 2 moments, one in 1970 and one in 1963. Everybody with me? 1970 is Love Story. So now the first scene in Love Story, you guys got to go watch it tonight together. Right? Watch it with a partner, watch it with a friend, watch it with a right, and it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It's just a beautiful. Watch it with a friend or watch it by yourself with the goddess. Okay, but just it's worth watching. Okay, so the first meeting scene in Love Story, they meet. They're at the library. Let's see if does anyone remember the scene? Probably not. My guess is not. Right? We got one. Okay. Right? Is anyone willing? Just let's do this again and just lie to make me feel better. I'll just feel better. But let me ask this. Let me try this again. Ready? Does anyone remember the scene? Yeah. All right, it's a little better. Okay, we're doing good. Okay, all right. So here's you don't need to have seen it. It's a great scene. So they're at the library and they basically start flirting with each other. And it's very funny. It's a very funny exchange. Oh, you're a poor girl. Oh, you're a Harvard boy. Oh, you're a preppy boy. I wouldn't ask you out, but you just did ask me out. It's all about them. The entire thing is about their personal dynamic. They have nothing in common. In the roommate world, they obviously don't fit. He's Oliver Barrett the fourth, and she realizes the building's named after your dad, Oliver Barrett Sr. Does everyone get that? Right? They're different roles, different social classes, but they say, fuck that. We're kind of liking each other. That's soulmates. You get that? They're saying like, hey, we're not going to do the roommate thing. We're starting to look in each other's eyes. Completely different than the Neo Trinity scene. The Neo Trinity scene, Neo and Trinity are not looking at each other. That's not how their meeting happens. They're looking at a shared horizon. Can you see the difference? Completely different. Now stay with me. It gets a little bit crazy. Gets a little bit crazy. So you guys, are we in? We okay? So stay close. Okay. So now there's a sex scene in both movies. Right? There's a sex scene. Now, what's the sex scene in Matrix? Anyone remember? Right? It's Matrix 2. They're at the rave party. There's one big party in the Matrix series. Who remembers the big rave party? There's this huge rave party in Babylon, right? It was like, it's actually an incredible scene, fully erotic. The whole place is like at this kind of wild, undulating rave, which is throbbing and pulsing and tumescent and any other word I can throw at it. And Neo and Trinity are in an alcove above the rave, making love, right, to the kind of, cacophonies of music below, meaning they're both private and they're part of the larger movement. And as their lovemaking is not just them, soulmates in each other's eyes, their lovemaking is part of the movement of the intimate communion of community and evolution, right, and history. Now, the lovemaking, that's the first lovemaking scene near Trinity in the Matrix. The parallel scene in Love Story, the soulmates. So the Matrix is wholemates. You get that? Neo and Trinity are wholemates. Neo and Trinity are asking questions about their larger whole. Their lovemaking has a relationship to the larger whole. They feel the larger whole moving through them. Love Story is classical soulmates. So the lovemaking, and that's soulmates. What are soulmates about? Soulmates look in each other's eyes and they tell each other the story of their wounding. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad idea. KK and I tell each other the story of our wounding. It's good. Roommates don't. Did you get that? Roommates don't. John Gray's mother and father, John's story in the book, never told each other the story of their wounding. That's not their conversation. They don't even communicate. Roommates don't get divorced because they have communication issues. Does everyone get that? Roommates have no expectation, right, of communication. It's about commitment, not communication. Does everyone get that? Right? But all of a sudden, you've got the 90s, you've got 3 big books, 5 love languages, right? Mars and Venus languages, right? Harville Hendrix, Getting the Love You Want, communication patterns between couples. All of a sudden, the essence of soulmate is not necessarily commitment, it's communion, right? It's communication. It's looking deeply in each other's eyes. And how do we bond? Through our trauma, through our wounding, right? Does that make sense? Now, is that good or bad? Well, it's definitely an evolutionary move. Does everyone get that? That's a movement in the right direction. We should bring our trauma to the table. We should bring our wounding to the table. We shouldn't just be roommates, but it won't take you home. That's a step in the evolution of love. Does that make sense, everyone? We've gone someplace. Now we're not just looking at the kids, we're looking at each other's eyes. Great, but it won't take me home. So the sex scene in Love Story is they're walking down the street, Jenny and Oliver, and Oliver says to Jenny, "You're so wounded, you can't get beyond your wounding and love anyone." That's the conversation. Then she has this moment of owning her wounding. The camera switches, they're in bed. That's the point. It's completely, does everyone get that? Everyone get that's how you read texts of culture. Does everyone get that? Those are two completely different texts of culture. So we have a first meeting scene, Love Story Matrix. Everyone got that? Yes, yes. We have a first sexing scene, Love Story Matrix. Everyone got that? Huh. Now look at this. Watch, this gets crazy. We have a death scene, right? In both movies, the female hero dies. Jenny dies and Trinity dies. Now pull up the scene. When Jenny gets cancer, it's a tragic story, right? You cry throughout. I remember watching Love Story, 30 years after it came out and watching, crying through the whole thing. But of course, I cry through episodes of The Flash also. So what can you do? I'm not a good barometer. I cry through everything. Okay, so but like Love Story, and so we get to the scene where she has cancer, and he comes into kind of, this is like her deathbed moment, right? And she says, "Oh, Preppy, you're just going to feel guilty right after I die. If you're going to feel guilty after I die, get out of my death bedroom." That's the exchange. Until he agrees not to feel guilty, right? She's not willing to be held by him. So it's all again about their emotional traumas and psychologies, even in the death scene. What's the death scene in The Matrix? I don't remember. It's an incredible scene. They crash right on the way to Babylon. Right. And Trinity is mortally injured. Trinity's been saved once by Neo in an earlier scene, but now she's mortally injured. Neo's now blind. He's now kind of just open to the light, but he's actually physically blind. He realizes she's dying. And she says to him, "You've got to go on and complete the mission." Huh. There's no conversation like that in Love Story. Now stay close. But whole mates include and transcend soulmates. Soulmates transcend, or whole mates transcend but include soulmate. And when I become a whole mate, when I move from soulmate to whole mate, I don't leave soulmate behind. I take soulmate with me. So Trinity says a second thing to Neo. She says, like, "You got to complete the mission." And then she says, "And oh my God, and the kisses we exchanged between us were my whole life." That's not about the mission, right? That's not about the mission. That's about soulmate, right? So wholemate, right? You get that? Wholemate transcends but includes, right? All of soulmate. Like wow, right? Now here's the last thing. Now just stay with me. It gets completely crazy and beautiful now. So now we see these three. See what we just did? We just read texts of culture. Does that make sense? We just read two texts of culture. One is a love story soulmate text, and the other is a matrix wholemate text. And we saw three parallel texts. We saw a first meeting scene, right? We saw a first sexing scene, 2, and then 3, we saw a death scene. Is that right? Everyone got that? You can literally see the movement from soulmate to wholemate. Let me just add 2 big things. So about 7 years, I think. Yeah, 7 years before Love Story appears on the big screen in the Western world, there's a play in New York on Broadway called, believe it or not, Fiddler on the Roof. That's the name of the play. I don't know who's heard of it, who hasn't heard of it. It was, for a time, other than My Fair Lady, it was the longest running Broadway play. And in the play, you have this kind of Jewish family, and you have this couple, Tevye and Goldie, who've been married for fucking ever. Then at some point, their daughter falls in love with this anarchist guy and wants to marry him. And Tevye, the dad, when they come and ask permission, gives permission. And Goldie says, why'd you give permission? He has no prospects. He has no home. He has no future. Why'd you agree? And Tevye says, because she loves him. And Goldie says, like, what does that have to do with anything? Right? That's role mates. You get that? That's role mates. And then Tevye says to Goldie, he says, but, and he sings it. I won't sing it for you. He says, but do you love me? And she looks at him and she doesn't even understand the question. She says, she does this incredible dance routine or song routine where she says, right, for 25 years, I've washed your clothes, I've darned your clothes. And she goes through this list of role mate tasks. For 25 years, I've washed your clothes, I've darned your clothes, right? And she goes through the whole list of role mate tasks. And she says, so what are you asking if you love me? And then he says, I know that for 25 years, you've washed my clothes, you've darned my clothes, but do you love me? And they go back and forth. It's 1963 in this incredible scene. And in the end, she says, I suppose I do, but it doesn't matter. And then they both say, but it's nice to know. Right? It's like, huh. Right? We've moved. It's this evolution of love. We've moved from role mate to soulmate. It's 1963. Then we jump 7 years, 1970 love story. But then we jump into the 21st century and we realize, oh, I've been looking deeply in my partner's eyes, but we killed all the gods. Postmodernity came along. We deconstructed the entire field of value. We killed all the gods. There's no more value. There's no more meaning. There's no more purpose. My friend Yuval Harari writes a book. He sells 50 million copies. He says in the book, page 390, the name of the book is Sapiens. He says, any meaning you ascribe to your life is mere delusion. 50 million copies later, endorsed by Barack Obama, Bill Gates, right, Jeffrey Bezos, right, all leading figures in England, Europe, right, South America. I mean, can you imagine? Any meaning you ascribe to your life is mere delusion. And he has the word any in italics. Just in case you thought something would get through, he italicizes the word any. You motherfucker, we're not letting any meaning through. It's mere delusion. Look up, he uses the word delusion, by the way, in that chapter. It's the chapter on happiness, chapter 19 or 20 in Sapiens, right? Look up the word delusion. He uses it 4 times in the chapter, 1 time in the next chapter. Delusion means, he uses it very deliberately, that which is a function of psychosis. You're deluded. It's a violation of the real. Delusion is not like confusion. There's lots of words you could have used. No, it's a delusion. So no, and just to get this really clear, that's what I started with this conversation about teacher. Just to get really clear, Harari is now doing, and Yuval and I, we know of each other. I sent him lots of love. It's not a personal attack. It's nothing to do with that. Yuval's now writing. You got to hold on to your seat. Hold on to your seat. Everyone can you hold on to, everyone have a seat? Can you hold on to the side? You got to hold on to the side. Give me a second. Now hold on to the side. Here we go. Okay, Yuval is now writing children's books. I kid you not. He has started an entire enterprise of children's stories. I call them Yuval's bedtime stories. And what he says in these books to children is, which are selling millions and millions of copies, right? No stories of value are real. They are delusion. Why would you do that? Just think about that for a second. And this is not a conspiracy theory on Reddit. This is not some weird post on X. I'm talking about the legacy structures, right, of the fabric of social culture. That's what we're talking about. We are telling our children there is no field of value and no field of meaning. We've killed all the gods. That's what we mean by the phrase, we've killed all the gods. But what do we say? Except for Aphrodite, soulmates. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. I'll tell you something wild. This is absolutely true. You can check it. But there have been, I don't know, probably about 10 studies in the last 2-3 years. So guess what teenagers aren't doing anymore? They're doing 2 things dramatically less. You would think, oh, sex. Oh, isn't that good? No. Romance. They're not dating. They're not romancing. Right? Can I guys share with you guys something just between us. Okay. Right. You guys, did you guys ever see the movie? God, I was like 2 when it came out. Although I'm 93 now, I look young, but I was 2 when this came out, right? It's called Dirty Dancing. Remember that movie? Like I always saw Dirty Dancing. It's like a great movie. It's like a fantastic. Dirty Dancing is a great movie. So I used to go in the summer. My family had, one of those little family. They called it a summer home, but it was like a broken down cottage where I had to mow the lawn for a long time. But we called it our summer home because everyone in Columbus, Ohio, was very impressed that we had a summer home in the Catskill Mountains and that like borscht, belt. So I used to go there. And we would go, and I was like just 13, and we would go skating. I was like Harris, New York, on the on the Parkway exit 102. There was a skating place called Fun Fair, right, for roller skating. Okay. Now in roller skating, the big thing is you would hold someone's hands in skating. Okay. And then I would go so I remember Debbie Weinbach. I have not thought about Debbie Weinbach for a long time. Debbie Weinbach. Oh my God. 13 years old. Right. We're holding hands, right, and roller skating. And then I go back, to Columbus, Ohio, and we're now going to write each other a letter. A letter. Now we have to choose the stationery. And then if it was like you were really interested, you would sign the letter SWAK, sealed with a kiss. Wow. And then you have to decide when she wrote you back, first off, how quickly or slowly would she write you back was a major issue. Right. I can literally remember going every day to the fucking mailbox and right, Bexley, Ohio, right? When is Debbie Weinbach writing me back? Then what kind of stationery is she going to choose? Right? Will it be fragrant or not with perfume? How big or small will she write SWAK? Right? Romance. Like, right? So there's cross-cultural studies around the world. Teenagers are not doing romance. And you know why? There's just a major write-up on it in one, publication, right? Because they don't believe love is real. They think it's a crock, right? We killed all the gods except for Aphrodite. And we thought we would always know how to worship on her altar. We would always have the booby prize of soulmates. It's a lie. Aphrodite can't live unless I understand that love is not an ordinary human social construct. Right? Love's not ordinary love. Love is what I would call outrageous love. And outrageous love is not human sentiment. Outrageous love is the heart of existence itself. That's what outrageous love is. It's the eros, which is the very fabric of reality itself. And there's eros way before there's sex. There's 12 billion years of eros before there's any sex. You get that? Right? Sex is an expression of the field of eros. Sex without eros, yawn. Yawn. That's utterly boring, uninteresting in any shape or form. And no one will say that out loud, but it's true. Sex has got to be an expression, a disclosure of the erotic, right? Just like before you pray, you have to do foreplay. Before sexing, you have to do foreplay. But foreplay is not about the titillating a particular body part for 90 seconds before penetration, which is how men generally interpret foreplay. One of the problems with the masculine, different conversation, not having that one right now. Okay. But foreplay actually begins the very last time you made love. The second the last time you made love is over, every conversation, intimation, tone between then and now, whether it's a day or 2 days or a month, that's all foreplay. And it's foreplay, right? It's the texture, it's the field of eros, right? Like, So the experience of soulmates, you can't even begin to have the experience unless we understand that love is not an ordinary human emotion, right? It's not energy and motion that kind of Cupid hit me with its arrow. Up, the secretary is somebody else. That arrow is a little weird. No, outrageous love is the heart of existence itself that literally moves in me, as me, and through me. And I am a unique incarnation of eros and desire. That's who I am. I'm a unique set of allurements. I'm in a field of allurement. And all of the outrageous love of reality moves in me, as me, and through me. Oh, that's now we're in a conversation. That works, right? That's true. You can feel that in your body, right? Ordinary love can't sustain the power struggle of the soulmate collapse. Wholemates live in the field of outrageous love. So they're looking together at the horizon. They're gifting, they're creating, they're loving reality open. And from that place of looking together at the horizon, they then turn towards each other. And the entire contradiction that modern literature talks about between intimacy and desire disappears. The entire modern literature, my friend, we did a dialogue a bunch of years ago, Esther Perel. Esther's always saying, right, intimacy, right, and desire are opposites because desire is traversing a distance and intimacy is about being close, and they never work together. Not true. That's not true. That's a lie. That's not true. As long as you're in the field of the ordinary love, the human construction of the separate self, intimacy and desire are opposites. But if I go from soulmate to wholemate, and wholemate means I've actually shifted my sense of who I am, and I've shifted my sense of what Eros is. Eros is not a local human emotion. Eros is the field of Eros. Love is the field of outrageous love. I'm a unique expression of that field. So that field is the field of desire. And that field desire is infinite. And the desire is for intimacy. That's how the field works. The entire erotic field of reality, you've got a proton and a neutron and a nuclei, and it's 380,000 years after the Big Bang. Then you've got an electron, and oh my God, they want to make it. They want to get together. They're allured to each other. They want to create a larger whole. That's the field of reality. So the desire for intimacy is infinite. There's always more intimacy. It's not we've arrived, we know each other. No, intimacy is the infinite structure of an unfolding cosmos, and God isn't the infinity of power, God's the infinity of intimacy. Huh. Like, huh. So you see what we've tried to do here in this short time? We've tried to literally refabric the whole structure of reality, not a couple of clever ideas, not an insight here or there. That's not going to help us. We're at a time between worlds. We're at a time between stories. We've lost transmission. We have gurus branding out there doing bullshit egoic moves. Fuck that. Throw that out. But we also have this kind of thing of like TikTok, social media. There's no field of value. There's no new story of value. We'll all just kind of say, no, fuck that. All right. What we have to do is we've always done in human history. It's what happened in the Renaissance. As the 10 families in Florence, there were 10 families. 9 of them were lost in papal politics. But there was one family, the Medicis, who found Pico della Mirandola and Marcello Ficino and Leonardo da Vinci. And they started the Florentine Platonic Academy. And they began to tell a new story of value. That's what we're going to be doing. That's what we're going to be doing in Europe. That's what the Center for Integral Wisdom is about. I founded it 13 years ago with a buddy of mine named Ken Wilbur, a woman named Sally Kempton, a great teacher of Klezmer Shaivism, right? And we've tried to kind of bring together, right, the best people I could find around the world to write a new library, to write a new story of value, right? To actually create the future together in this time of meta crisis. We're not interested in likes. We try and stay as offline as we can. Occasionally we'll appear and do something, right? But with intention. It's not a marketing machine at all, not even slightly. That's not how it's built, right? It's built as a kind of a mixture of, if you will, of a think tank and a band of outrageous lovers, right? It's the Florentine Platonic Academy. And I was delighted when Sabri showed up a couple of years ago. I don't remember how he got there, maybe through Aubrey, something like that. He was one of my close students, right? And he's wonderful. And I'm delighted that you guys are hanging out with him. He's a great and beautiful human being. And and he's a wonder and a delight. And that's fantastic. And I'm delighted to have him in our deep study circle and to over the years, right? Let's do this. There's something to be done here. So thank you for your time. Right. Thank you for your time. Right. Deeply honored. Sabri. Thank you, Krista. Thank you. Right. So deep dive.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Before we wrap up, I mean, what an amazing kind of foundation laying for the gathering in Europe next month together
Yeah.
with you and with Aubrey for the mystery school. And this really, yeah, was a very short introduction as to what's to come. And we were together there 2023. And, something that really stood out for me. One, actually, I had a conversation about wholemates on the Thursday morning walk. Thursday morning walk, I was actually talking about wholemates. And when Krista told me that was coming back around for the next one, I was like, wow, that's kind of, wow, that was a real deep conversation that I had. But there was something that happened, just to give a flavor. On the Monday, the first day, you introed what we were going to be talking about, lines and circles, and you kind of went into it and you said, on the last day, it will all make sense. And I shit you not, there was a certain point towards the end of the Friday, you gave us it's about a 30-minute in particular transmission where everything over the last 5 days, 10 hours a day, just went like into my consciousness and it blew me open. And the only thing I could think was, what a fucking genius. Like the fact that you said it, and then at that moment on the Friday, it happened exactly as you said it would, just blew me away. I've never experienced anything like it. So, for anyone who feels allurement to join us and join Dr. Gaffney, Krista, and myself, and Aubrey, we have a wonderful
Okay.
invitation. We'll fire out a message. I'll fire out a message to everyone on that. And then lastly, the Wholemates book is coming up. And for anyone who would
That's
like to get the first 5 chapters, there is a link. We can post that to go and download the first 5 chapters of that.
madly.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will fire out a message. I mean, kind of quick wave of hands who would like to kind of find out more about the mystery school and what's coming up. It is one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you really have to actually be in the experience. There's nothing that can make up for the experience itself. So in the
Thank you.
platform, guys, I'll post a link to be able to download the first 5 chapters of Wholemates. And you think 5 chapters is that half the book? Knowing Mark, it's probably 10%.
Yeah, it's like the introduction.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, we made it. Thank you all so much. And just pour some love into the platform. Please share your experience in comments in the chat or in the live post. That will be incredible. And thank you all. And I hope to see you all again soon on one of our community calls that are coming up this month.